When I'm teaching my Marketing 101 class and I get to the section on advertising and I'm talking about the various forms of advertising an actor can use, the one form that I always harp on as being, over the long haul, the most effective is the newsletter. And so what I'd like to do in this little video is show you some samples of newsletters, talk about the theory behind them, and also how a well-crafted newsletter can send out and reinforce a certain image or a certain narrative that you want to create to all the people receiving it. So let's get started. So to start off with, I wanted to share some theory with you from the world of marketing. Like, why do they create things like newsletters in the first place? Well, they've done studies now, and they've discovered that the amount of information that we receive here as a person in the 21st century is equivalent to how much information our parents used to get in a week and how much our grandparents used to get in a month. Right? This tremendous amount of information is just bombarding us all the time through our cell phones, the internet, TV, radio, billboards, you name it. And the brain cannot handle that much information being thrown at it. We would never be able to focus on the task at hand. We'd be totally distracted all the time by that information. So what does the brain do? It filters out about 90% of it, which allows you to get the stuff you need done during the day accomplished, right? And that's great for our brain so we don't go insane, but it's really bad for an advertiser to reach out and tell someone about a new product or service. So in the world of marketing, they have a concept known as the 5-touch rule. And what that means is it takes a minimum of 5 touches through advertising to reach a potential consumer before they even begin to go, oh, there's this new thing out there I should take a look at. 5 at the bare minimum, right? So what does that mean in our world? Well, that would mean something like sending a casting director your headshot and resume, a flyer for the new show you're doing, a postcard you're staying in touch, maybe you meet them at an event, and of course, a newsletter, right? That's 5. Now, the majority of actors out there will send things like their headshot and resume with a cover letter, maybe a postcard, and then every so often maybe some kind of little postcard update, but it's not on a regular basis, and it takes them a long time to reach that threshold of 5 touches, okay? And you're going to need at least that many just to get on their radar screen, all right? And these samples of advertising then lead into another idea from the world of marketing, is that advertising campaigns, which is what these are, come in 2 forms. You have the promotional campaign and the ongoing campaign. Now I'll do a video about the promotional campaign pretty soon here, but let's talk about the ongoing campaign, because that's what a newsletter falls into. An ongoing ad campaign is, on a regular basis, a company will send out advertising reminding people that they're still there, and also bringing them up to date about what's new at the company. You know, what new product they might have to come in and try. Okay, so recently I saw an ad for McDonald's where the sun's coming up, it's early morning, guys cleaning up the concrete with a hose, someone's clipping hedges, making the outside look pretty, someone's making coffee, and they're introducing some new breakfast sandwich, right? So it did 2 things. It said, hey, we're still here, and oh, by the way, we've got this new thing we've just released. Come on in and try it, right? And in a way, that's an ongoing campaign. Why? Because we've all grown up with McDonald's. It's been in the it's been there forever, and so it's not at the forefront of our brain anymore. And so by seeing that ad, automatically, the Golden Arches now is at the top of our mental list of fast food restaurants. Like it or not, it happens on a subconscious level. Well, the same thing happens when you send advertising on a regular basis to the people in the business you want to stay in touch with. And to me, the newsletter is a perfect form to do that in. All right? So let's talk now about what the content might be. So inevitably, when I'm teaching this concept in my workshops on marketing and advertising, actors go, what can I possibly put in this thing that's relevant? I'm not going to go to the Oscars anytime soon, and I'm not going to star in Hamlet tomorrow, so what's relevant or interesting that I could put in here? Well, there's a lot, actually, okay? The first and foremost is, you want to put in any projects you've been working on. Did you work a day or 2 on that TV show? Did you work on this commercial? Are you in rehearsal for a play now? And so on. Obviously, anytime you're working, that's a great thing to talk about. But also, you might want to mention if you got a callback for a project, even though you didn't get it. Now, why is that important? Well, they may have seen 50 actors for that one project, for that one role, rather, and they only called back 5 people, and you were one of the 5. Well, what's implied in that statement is, my auditions are getting better, right? So you might want to share something like that. Perhaps you've taken a certain kind of class that's industry related. Maybe you took a week-long musical theater intensive, where you studied dance and movement and whatever, and you can talk about, I did this, or I just got my actor combat certification, so I can do swords and guns now, or whatever. So if you can talk about whatever training you're doing or classes like that. And then of course you can do nuts and bolts things like, hey, I just shot my new headshots, I'm getting them reproduced, look for them in a few weeks, right? Or I'm starting to put together my website now, or my new DVD reel for film. Anything that's that's related to the business in that way, another form of marketing and advertising. Let them know it's coming. Let them know what you're doing on it. Okay. Also, did you go to any industry-related events, like an award show or a conference or something like that? You can talk about, have you been nominated for something? Have you been nominated in your city for a Best Supporting Actress in a Play nomination? Here in Washington, D.C., we have the Helen Hayes Awards, and if you get nominated, let them know in the newsletter. Maybe you do audiobooks and you get nominated for an Audio Award, or whatever. It doesn't have to just be Oscars and Emmys and Obies, folks. Okay? And then the last category I would think about is sharing something that could be personal. Okay? And this gets into a sort of a larger question of what is in the newsletter, and really goes to tone and style. Because you don't necessarily want the newsletter to be just a bullet points of facts of things you've been doing. You want to impart a bit of your own personality and share with them a little bit of your life as an actor. It doesn't have to be, all the nitty-gritty, dark details of your existence, but you might, if you're going to get married, want to tell them about that. Or maybe you've moved in and you have a new partner now, or maybe your daughter just started 6th grade. Those little connections help make you more approachable, more accessible to the person reading it. You're not just an actor talking about me, me, me. You're also letting them know that you're a human being and you have, other things going on in your life. In fact, I think those little touches can really make a wonderful newsletter that people will want to read and reread and even share with other people. So now let's look at some samples and talk about layout and to give you some ideas of newsletters you might want to make. So the initial inspiration for me to try this myself came from 2 places. The first was an actress I was doing a play with, and she would put out a yearly newsletter, like at Christmas time, recapping what she did for that year. And I brought it home and I read it, and I thought it was great. I showed it to my wife Shannon, and she said, you should try this. You should get going on something like this. So I said, okay, I'm going to give it a shot, but I knew I wasn't a strong enough writer initially, or a graphics designer, to really launch this full force. So as an experiment, what I did was I went back in time, and this is, say, the summer of 1997, and I went back the previous year and I wrote a single 1-page newsletter for every month for those 12 months to practice. So I would take, in this case, the very first issue was July of 1996. I went back then and I created The Sojourns of Shaw and Pratt. And here I'm talking about the fact I've just moved to Washington, and I've done some work here and there. This is actually my old postcard from way back when, taped onto this, and I would take it to Kinko's and photocopy it. And then I would send out about 10 to 20 of these to friends who were editors, writers, marketing people, and so on, and ask them, what is your feedback on tone and style and all that? And so they were able to help me become a better writer over time, and begin to experiment with layout and ideas, right? So fast forward to 2013, this is the version that I just sent out for this winter. As you can see, the first thing, of course, is that it's in color, and it's 2-sided. I'll show you the other side in a second. It satisfies the cardinal rule of actor marketing, which it has my picture on there. And there's my picture of my lovely wife, Shannon. and my contact information is here. This opening paragraph, I'm talking about, hey, I'm getting back, I've got new headshots, I'm really raring to go, let's start doing some auditions. This article is about my company, Sean Pratt Presents, about the classes I've been teaching, and so on. Then, on the back side, I'm talking about my book, To Be or Wanna Be, that I've published, and the reviews and so on. Here in this article, I'm talking about radio spots and television commercials that I did during the fall political campaign. And finally down here, I'm sharing that I've been an audiobook narrator for 17 years now, and I just finished narrating my 700th book in December of 2012. And in 2012, I had the opportunity to record An Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, which I really loved. And over here is a review from AudioFile magazine of my performance in that book. So, as you can see, I've got 5 different big articles. I've got some photographs here. This is a Microsoft template. I didn't create this from scratch. I just used what was available, and I really like the layout, and I'm probably going to continue it. I'll just change the color scheme depending on what year or month of the year we're in. And, I have some icons, and off we're going. I fold this up, put it in an envelope, and I mail it out. Which leads to another question I get oftentimes about this, which is, well, why can't I just do an e-newsletter, through Constant Contact? And I tell people that that's fine, you can do that, but to me, marketing through the mail is so much more powerful. And you can watch the video I've made on it called Marketing Through the Mail, and learn about why it's so much more effective to actually mail someone a physical copy of this thing than it is to email it to them. So here are some other samples. This is Vanessa. This is one of her early newsletters. She's a voiceover artist, so there she is. And these are little icons of the different spots she's done recently. All right. By the way, she told me that when she sent this out, she booked, I think it was 3 or 4 jobs immediately from producers that she had sent it to. They just called her up and said, oh, we'd love you to do, this spot for us, which only reinforced the whole idea of why this is important. Next we have Heather here. Heather Benjamin is an actress in D.C. And there's a lot going on here, and I think it's worth talking about for a moment. She's got 5 different bits of information. Okay? So she's only talking about 5 things of the multitude of things that happened to her over the previous 3 months. But let's look at the photographs. First, she says, hey, I just got my headshots done with Clinton Brandhagen. There's a sample. Here she's working on this little movie, a little indie movie, which sort of looks like a Downton Abbey kind of thing. And there she is as one of the maids. And then we have these 2 photographs down here from an indie movie she's working on and a reading she did at the Kennedy Center. What's important to note about these 2 pictures is that they were taken with her digital camera. So she would not have been able to use these had she not brought her camera to the set. Right? Which is why you need to bring your camera to all the jobs and events you do. And finally, she has this really cool icon in the bottom, and I really I think it's a wonderful icon for her to use. Now, as one other example, this is my friend Don Hagen, and Don sends out these oversized postcards as his newsletter. So there we see Don on the front, and a little quote from an author who really liked his voice. Then on the back side, we have these little thumbnails of all the different books he recorded from that first quarter highlights of 2010. Okay? And this leads into the next question, which is tone and style, which I've touched on previously. And, what I advise people to do is that, your newsletter should be something that's breezy, it should be, fun, it should be a little self-deprecating. I'm always up for making fun of myself, pointing out that I did something silly. But in general, the formula that I use when I'm writing each of my articles is, hey, I did this thing, I had a really good time doing it, oh, and here's something funny or interesting that happened during that project. And that's pretty much the formula I use for every single story that I create for any of my newsletters. All right? The worst thing you can do is complain or bitch and moan about an event. No one wants to work with someone who's a downer, right? So keep it light and keep it positive. So there you have it, the Actor's Newsletter. One of the most simple and by far the most effective pieces of marketing and advertising you can create over the long term of your career. I would say it's never too late to get started on this. Use a template that you would find in Microsoft or on the web. Keep it simple, and if you can combine photographs that you would be using, either you take on set or you have press shots or whatever. Go to my Facebook page, Sean Pratt Presents, and take a look at the other newsletters that I've posted there, the ones I think have been really well executed, and they can give you some inspiration or some guidelines as to content and style. And if you'd like, if you get the newsletter in a pretty finished form, if you'd like to send it to me to take a look at, contact me through my Facebook page, Sean Pratt Presents, and I'll have you send it to me, and I'll take a look at it for you. Good luck.